Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Volume's on. Okay. Welcome everyone to this Sunday evening, gloomy evening here in southwestern Ontario anyway. It's raining in December in southwestern Ontario. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. The weather. Yeah, we're actually going to just like talk about the weather. You know, stream has gone downhill when, but it's an important thing to talk about. Thank you everyone for coming out. We have a lot of the regulars. Earth Creature, welcome. I don't think I've seen you in my chat before, so welcome. Yeah, thank you, Beep Cat K. I have the crunchy curls today, as I call them, which means I'm probably going to end up playing with my hair a lot during this. Thank you. Midi Doctors, do a quiz. You want me to do a quiz? Trying to think. What would be, do you want a quiz on something in particular or just, you know, Canada, which everyone can Google when they're at their computer? Hey, John Ross and everyone else, and yeah. Okay, so we're going to get into the Canadian shenanigans in just a little bit. Thank you to everyone who has checked out my video about TYT. I was super anxious and nervous and all that sort of stuff, just trying to get it posted, put a lot of work into it, and I was kind of hoping it would do a bit better than what it did. Yeah, trying to get the message out there to as many people as possible. It's still a battle with the algorithms. I try. Like, it's hard to grow your channel, and it's like you don't want to go down the clickbait route, but sometimes you have to in order to get the numbers, because I'm looking to make positive progressive change, but in order to do that, people actually have to know I exist. So it's a bit of a challenge. Like a couple years ago when Ontario was having its election, I did a whole bunch of really short videos called Doug Ford Bites. And they were just supposed to be little quick reminders of the horribleness that is Doug Ford. And, you know, they had the potential of doing something, but they got so few views. And I hate that we're in that situation, you know, where it is about the views and the interactions and stuff, when really I just want to be able to make content. But since I'm making content with a purpose, it's a little bit more difficult. Let's see. Yes, John, I saw that you shared it on Twitter. Thank you. Well, welcome aboard, Earth Creatures, to Left of the Box. Canadian news with sarcasm and sass. Okay, well, Midi Doctors wants a quiz of some sort. So, what's the date today? We'll start with that. Anyone knows the date today? And we can start with that. Does anyone know how dark it is in my area right now? Nyaja. Sorry, I am horrible with names. I wish the live stream is closed caption. I can't hear well enough. Can't watch videos when there isn't captions. Otherwise, I love your videos. Happy shenanigans. Yeah, technology still needs to catch up to a lot of things. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about that at the moment. Yes, MIDI doctors, you are correct. It is December 17th. We're actually getting really close to Christmas for those who celebrate it. I don't really anymore. I used to. It used to be a thing I used to do with my grandmother. I would go to the nursing home and spend time with her on Christmas Day. But she passed away a bunch of years ago, so that's been a while. And then living with poverty and upheavals in my life, I used to really enjoy Christmas, even though I was spending it on my own and still living with poverty. But I had a certain amount of Christmas decorations I would put out. I liked getting into the mood. There was a certain nostalgic feeling about it because, I didn't have a great childhood. But one thing we were always able to pull off was a decent Christmas. We had a sort of routine that we would do for it and whatnot. And they tended to be quite nice. And so I liked just decorating and having out all these ornaments that I've had for years and years and years, and the little tiny Christmas tree, and playing the videos I liked, and sometimes even the music and the smell of pine and Christmas spice and all that sort of stuff. And when I was on my own, which I usually tend to be on Christmas, I would go watch a movie on Christmas Day. But I haven't brought out the Christmas decoration for a few years now, just because I haven't really felt in the mood. Although this year I do have a very legitimate excuse of having kittens, and introducing them to Christmas decorations at this time, not a good idea. They would destroy the place. So it is that. And I'm going to check my stream because it's doing that same weird thing that I was doing last time, where the YouTube studio that I'm trying to pay attention to most of the time for analytics and stuff like that, the video aspect of it is like 7 minutes behind. But when I open the tab of just my straight live stream of this, it looks fine. It's just, the standard 30-second behind or whatever. So it's really confusing. It's distracting. Oh, we have Tyler Hackner in the chat as well now. Welcome. Yeah, BKK. I just don't have the motivation for it anymore. And yeah, it is that time of year where you see everyone getting together and all that sort of stuff. But then you also hear a lot about the downsides of Christmas, like family being forced, like they have to get together, and all the shenanigans that they get up to, and the arguments and the stress and the strain about gift giving and stuff like that. Like, one of the nice things about spending Christmas alone is you don't have to deal with any of that. Part of the reason why I spend Christmas alone is because I chose not to deal with that family stuff. And it was probably overall better for my mental health that way. Anyway, yeah, so I released a video yesterday about my time at Rebel HQ. I was super nervous about it. I finally was able to go through the comments today, and they're mostly good, which is nice. A couple people, one person accusing me of, playing the victim to capitalism and all that sort of stuff, like, oh, that. And I was very tempted to reply to that person saying, thank you for letting everyone know you're a dimwit. Because I knew no matter what, there would still be people doing that. And truth be told, we're all victims of capitalism. The entire society we live in now, you can't not live in capitalism, and it's dragging everyone down. So that's a problem. And then one comment I was finding very, I don't know, quaint. I'll say quaint. Somebody who is like, oh, well, since you appreciate direct communication, and then proceeds to be very indirect, telling me that he thinks I'm ugly and have a shrill voice, but was very direct in saying he thinks I'm not funny, but I'm a good writer. It's like, okay. Can't win them all. And I know my face is an acquired taste. It is what it is. I'm not conventionally pretty. Some people see it, some people don't. It is what it is. Personally, I prefer people to like me for my personality. So, but yeah, I was super nervous about posting it and the type of backlash that I might get about it. And that's one of the things that, again, I find frustrating about doing content creating, especially when you like really put yourself out there and be vulnerable, is that you are putting your neck on the line to some extent. You know, you are setting yourself up for harassment, or some sort of backlash, that sort of stuff. And to go through all of that, and it's like, you know, it's still got a decent amount of views, but I want to make a difference. You know, yeah, it is what it is. I want to make a difference. I was hoping that enough people would see that so that they could at least, if they chose to be a contractor with TYT, would go in with their eyes open as to what happens in that company. They just branded themselves the home of progressives, but they're still a capitalist corporation. Let's see. Yeah, Lanier has also not been well. He seems to have developed some sort of respiratory issue, sneezing a lot. I can hear a little bit of it in his breathing. Fortunately, the rescue I got him from should still be covering his vet bills. I just need to arrange to get him there. I called them last week, so I'll have to call them and harass them tomorrow to get him seen so that I can be dealt with sooner than later. Frodo is still doing okay. He's eating not nearly as much as I would like him to eat. And I am now, let's check, still about $850 shy of paying off his initial vet bills, which, you know, is that about half of what it was, which is good. I'm very grateful for everyone for their help that they've been able to give me with that. You know, one step at a time. One step at a time. BKK, you're a beautiful person inside out. And fuck that person. I don't want to fuck him. I don't think he's my type. I prefer people who are intelligent. Um, and that's the thing. He's like, oh, leave the comedy to comedians. And it's like, most of the comedians I see aren't that funny. A lot of them are not. I might get around to the clip of Roseanne Barr doing her little stand-up bit, and you're trying to say somebody like her, because she's a comedian, default is funnier than me. I don't think so. I knew my videos were some of the funniest on Rebel HQ, regardless of cultural difference. But you know, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, which is fine. Let's see. Bad lefty. When it rains, it pours. Yeah. Because like 40 minutes ago, I looked at Abernathy and one of his eyes was shut and he wasn't opening it. But then I checked again about just before I started the stream and he had opened that eye. So I'm just crossing my fingers that nothing is wrong with him, because the rescue I got him from won't provide any help with his medical bills at this point. So it's like, okay, just, I want them all to be nice and healthy. Anyway, I have some interesting, kind of hopefully interesting news stuff to go over. Canadian news, of course, I'm covering that. Just a tiny bit on Gaza, because there's always so much there. And I know there's been some really horrible stories coming out lately, but I've seen some indication that the footage, that extraordinarily horrific footage that I'm not even going to mention, and I wish there was a way of filtering out from my feed, was from a different incident in a different country and was actually labeled a massacre. It's so hard to tell what is real news, like what is real footage these days, especially on Twitter. But there is one story from Gaza that I do want to touch on that, again, is not, it's horrible. It's really bad, but it's not, I'm not going to be showing anything graphic. Let's put it that way. And it's just one story because, we're always getting bombarded with so much stuff happening in Gaza. I just, this one, I feel like there's at least a little bit something to comment on. But other than that, I have some news about the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Ooh, exciting. And it's going to touch on the issue of abortion. And then there's cops acting like cops. Even here in Canada, they are still cops. Not surprising. And some interesting developments with the Doug Ford government wanting to get Ontario drunk enough to re-elect him in. Pretty much what it is. And some one-off stories. We'll see what we can get to. And you know what would happen? If I might have a chance of getting to most of them if I stop rambling and just kind of get to it. So I'll start with the thing with Gaza. Here we go. So this was posted yesterday. This morning, Israel's sniper shot and killed my two family friends in an attack on the Holy Family Catholic Church in Gaza. Nadia and Samar, mother and daughter, were walking to the sisters' convent to use the only bathroom. One was killed, and as she tried to carry the other to safety, their bodies remained strewn across the church courtyard. The water tanks and solar panels were also struck. We don't know if they have enough water to survive. The Christian community in Gaza is on the verge of extinction. There are about 800 of us left, some sheltering in the Catholic Church, others in the Orthodox Church, and a few still in their homes in Gaza City. There are approximately 530 Christians inside the Holy Family. 60% are women and children. My family has been sheltered there since St. Orthodox Church was bombed and my cousin was murdered. This is a targeted death campaign during Christmas season on the world's oldest Christian community. Earlier this morning, an Israeli tank fired on the convent of Sisters Mother Teresa, and the convent house housed 54 people with disabilities. The generator was destroyed, taking out electricity. Two more shells were fired, completely destroying the convent. Many of these people are now without the respirators they need to survive. The Red Cross has submitted a request to the Pope for urgent intervention. That's the thing. It's never going to be just one group that's targeted. When a government is on a campaign to wipe out a group of people, they don't really care who gets caught in the crossfire, and it never stops with just one group. It will expand to another group and another group, and the horrific outcome that they complete their campaign in Gaza, the Zionist Israel government. They're not going to stop there because there's Palestinians living outside of Gaza that are now a threat because of the horrors that have been inflicted. Well, they always considered them a threat when they're not. And it's just so sad that You know, a lot of people will only pay attention when it's their particular group that are hit. Like I know not these, I'm not talking about this group in particular. Um, but there's a lot of people within the borders of Israel who probably think they're safe right now. But if this campaign keeps on going and going, they're going to find out quite quickly not all of them will be. It is just such a horrific story. Like all the places you're supposed to be safe and none of them are. There are no safe spaces in Gaza right now. And all the innocent people there, because the overwhelming majority of people there are just innocent people trying to live their lives. The Pope did make a statement. I'm not going to play it because it's not in English. But somebody did a translation of it here. So I will just read this out from the Vatican City. The following is my English translation of the full statement on the situation at the Holy Family Church in Gaza by Pope Francis. And let us not forget our brothers and sisters who are suffering from war in Ukraine, in Palestine, and Israel in other conflict zones. May the approach of Christmas strengthen our commitment to open roads of peace. I continue to receive very serious and painful news from Gaza. Unarmed civilians are the subject of shelling and shooting. And this happened even inside the Holy Family Parish compound where there are no terrorists but family, children, sick and disabled people, nuns. A mother and her daughter, Mrs. Nadia Anton and her daughter, Samir Anton, were killed and others wounded by sharpshooters as they went to the bathroom. Damage was done on the house of the Sisters of the Mother Teresa, hit their generators. Some say it's terrorism, it's war. Yes, it is war, it is terrorism. That is why scripture states that God stops war, breaks bows, and breaks spears. Let us pray to the Lord for peace. So, I'm not a fan of institutional religion of any branch, but of the popes I have known, this one has been doing a pretty good job of just living the values that the religion espouses. You know, being forgiving, being open, wanting peace. And, you know, the pressure is mounting around the world. Everyone is becoming more and more aware of the horrors that the Israeli government is doing, and it's only a matter of time before heavy consequences fall down on them. Because, I'm just going to check. Because, yeah, there's still a lot of anti Semitism in the world. A lot of Jewish people are constantly under threat. And what the Zionist government is doing right now is just making Israel even all that much more unsafe, making it a target. Because how much further can they push it before other countries step in and unleash their horrors upon it? It is like we just want it to stop. I'm tired of seeing the footage of the children crying and wondering why this is happening to them and all the other horrors, and seeing homes and neighborhoods being destroyed, bombed for no reason. Hostages are being killed. Just recently, 3 of them were killed by the IDF because they were mistaken for being Palestinian. And then, you know, the Israeli government will release footage of, oh, look at these IDF. They just rescued a puppy under the rubble. Okay, well, why was that puppy under the rubble? You know, why was it under there? Like, where did this rubble magically come from? And also, it's just so sick that they show that, knowing that if it had been a Palestinian person, they wouldn't have helped them out of that rubble. Yeah. It is just these sorts of things have always been happening in the world, but now with social media and the access people have to live streams and video recording, we're seeing it more now. And it's just, yeah, it's kind of like when cell phones became more popular in the States, people realized how brutal the police were there. And it's not that things have necessarily changed, it's just our awareness has been changing. And, part of it is I try my best to, like, I wish I knew more earlier on, like what was happening in Canada with residential schools, because they were still in operation when I was of school age. And I didn't know what was happening because they always say, like, why didn't people step in? Why didn't people do more? And for a large part of it, people don't know because their governments hide it from them. Just like there's reports of people, of Jewish people in Israel who don't know how brutal, the brutal, brutal nature of what's happening in Gaza. But there's going to come a time now where the governments, they can't hide the truth from us anymore. And that's a good thing. And now that we see it, it's we're now stepping outside of the cave. To give it that analogy, we're no longer looking at the cave wall, and there's no going back. That's an old philosophy thing. I forget which philosopher said it, but it's one that I appreciate a lot, and I find myself thinking of all the time. Again, I don't know the name of the philosopher because I'm horrible with names. Uh, but for those of you who don't know, because I try my best not to assume everyone knows what's in my brain, it's the analogy of people live their entire lives in the cave, and all they see is when the light reflects in on the wall, they see that of the outside world with the shadows going by and all that sort of stuff. But that's the only thing, and that's what they understand the world to be, is just what they see on this cave wall until one of them turns around and steps outside and see what's really happening. But they try to go back into the cave to get other people to turn around and wake up to what's happening, and they all refuse because this is their world. This is what they know. This is what they understand. And to turn around and see what's out there, so much unknown, so much scary, so much things that they're not familiar with, people are reluctant to see the world for what it really is. And we're in a time now where there's no longer, the walls are coming down. Like that's pretty much it. The walls are coming down. People will no longer be able to just kind of bury their heads in the sand, especially with the rise of fascism going on around the world, the rise of the extreme climate change, because, something I've said in my videos a lot of times, it doesn't matter if you believe in climate change or not, it's still going to affect you. And all of these traumas around the world, it's going to affect people in one way or another. And yeah, hopefully when enough people become aware and motivated, like, this needs to stop. It needs to stop now. It needed to stop 2 months ago. Anyway, let's look into some of the chat, shall we? Bad Lefty, the cheek of certain MSM news crying about Gazans stealing their own aid of clean water. I would talk about thirsty kids getting clean water for the first time in weeks. Yeah, the framing that the mainstream media does on a lot of these stories is still absolutely abhorrent. Just the way that they're painting people trying to survive. Earth creature Nazis used to do this stuff in the 1940s. Yeah, there was a very disturbing headline about it. The serfs have pointed out where some officials within the Israeli government is trying to, they're not hiding it anymore, saying something about wanting to make Gaza looks like Auschwitz. So many people haven't learned from the past. Like we're not that far removed from the Holocaust. I remember encountering Holocaust survivors. There are still Holocaust survivors alive. Like and yet so many people are just, especially people who were directly affected by it. Like to have that group of people, yeah, is the world can be a dark, dark place. Uh, yes, earth creatures. A lot of people within Israel, a lot of Jewish people within Israel, a lot of non-Jewish people within Israel are against what their government is doing. And that's why it's always important to distinguish like between the Zionists and the government and the people of Israel. Because so many people just assume when you say Israel that you mean everyone in it, but it's like, no, no. There's a lot of wonderful people there who are trying their best to fight back. And, I never hold people accountable for what their government is doing because quite often their government is also inflicting horrors on them as well. I'm not going to hold American people responsible for what the American government is doing. Like, yes, a lot of people voted them in and all that sort of stuff, but those people were lied to. They were misled. They were groomed into it. They were put into such a situation that they're so desperate for an end to their own pain and suffering that they're going to believe what these right-wing government officials tell them. It is, yeah. Soul Life. I have no idea if this is the same Pope that disavowed Nancy Pelosi. I do know I wouldn't say he's pro LGBTQ plus. He just says that there is a place for them in the church, that it's not their job to judge them, that if they want communion and all that sort of stuff, they should be allowed, because they are still children of God. So far more progressive than a lot of other popes. I actually saw one of the popes in Toronto when they went in. It was quite the experience. Oh, So Life, thank you so much for the $2. I really appreciate it. So Life, do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting in the wind, wanting to start again? Yeah, that's a Katy Perry song, I believe. I think it's about something else, but something about a plastic bag in the wind. Very top tier lyrics there. Jules T, the irony. The ones who were oppressed are now sadistically subjugating others. Yeah. It is horrible. But speaking of those bad cops I was talking about down in the States that everyone is always so aware of, Did you know we have cops in Canada? Uh-huh. We have lots of cops in Canada. Let's see, where are these tabs? I put all the tabs. They're grouped together, but they're not in order of the way that I was planning on presenting this. There we go. Yes, there are cops in Canada. It reminds me of his song. It's an Australian singer did a song. Oh, you can't say in Canada. Well, you can, and lots of people do. Now it's like, oh, you can't say cops in Canada, but you can, because we do have cops, and they act like cops. So, Calgary police harass and arrest an unhoused community member on Sunday, December 10th, while questioning their winter scarf. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. The Kiev, the Palestinian symbol scarf, and if they're involved in any of the protests of Palestine. Let's see. It's a bit hard to hear, so I'm going to try to read the closed captioning on it.
All right. So, if you understand that you're under arrest.
So the cop is saying, all right, do you understand you're under arrest?
You understand what for, right? Okay, do you want to call a lawyer?
He's asking this unhoused person if they would like to call a lawyer.
Not right now. Okay. So what's...
And that person, and then he's replying back to the person, oh, not right now? Okay. Yeah, because all unhoused people just, have their lawyers on speed dial of the phones they may not have. Now the cop is saying, so what's with the scarf?
What's with the scarf? So you're not part of any protest group or anything like that?
So the cop is trying to confirm you're not part of these protests or anything like that.
The scarf is just on.
Let's get you to back up.
The scarf is just on because it's winter in fucking Calgary. People tend to wear scarves in that temperature. I'm going to get you back up, please, the cop says.
All right.
Well, he wants the people filming to back away, of course, because they're filming everything these cops are doing. And now saying, you're blocking the sidewalk by filming us.
Blocking the sidewalk.
People are getting...
Yeah, you can go over there. Thank you. He has the right to privacy as well. Okay?
Yeah. And I think you're just worried about people identifying all this stuff on you.
Okay. He is under arrest.
Yeah.
So if you interfere...
So this person who has a right to privacy, I'm just going to announce to you on video, he's under arrest.
You're going to be arrested as well for obstruction, okay? I'm letting you know that now so you can move along.
We're not interfering.
And then we get into this one.
It's a decent size plate. We already put away. And you've got outstanding warrants.
So they've put that unhoused person into a police vehicle and is asking if they have any outstanding warrants.
And with the scarf that he's wearing, I just don't want
And they're questioning his scarf again.
that to get overlooked. Okay. Yeah? Got it. Yeah.
Just the top comment under here. Since when is it illegal to be unhoused, and why the issue with the scarf? First, protests are legal in Canada. Second, it's winter in Calgary. People wear scarves. Third, you're letting your Zionist white supremacy hang out in full view. Do better, be better. Yeah. There were protests happening nearby there. People who were standing up for the Palestinians. And so, of course, the cops are like, oh, let's just target this vulnerable, unhoused person and arrest him because they like their power trips. That's all this is. Like, it should be, there should be no unhoused people because, that should be provided. But to harass someone who's already, being harassed on a regular basis by just average people going down the street, being harassed by the system and all that sort of stuff. And they're just getting in his face because they see him wearing a scarf. Because I've actually heard some people say that, well, if they're so broke and poor, then where did they get the money for the scarf? I've heard that type of thing before. When they see people, asking for change and stuff of that sort. And it's like, well, if they're so broke, where did they get the bike to drive to the off-ramp intersection thing to ask for money and all that sort of stuff? It is gross, the way that unhoused people are treated. And then just to be harassed by the cops for what? This guy wasn't harming anyone. He was just sitting there wearing a scarf. But the cops, they want to do their thing. They want to have their power trip. They want to arrest people. It's gross. A certain type of people are drawn into this thing, and something I've said before is like, there's not just like a few bad apples in the barrel. The barrel is what's spoiling the apples. So it doesn't matter how good the apple is going in, the barrel itself, it's what's causing them to be spoiled. But it's not like this just happens in Alberta. Alberta, this is quite common, cops acting like this. Alberta is kind of like Florida. Florida had no beaches, was flatter, could have a decent barbecue, and was a hell of a lot colder. Okay, so only parts of Alberta is flatter because, you get into the Rockies, and the Rockies are not flat, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it's the same type of mentality going on in Alberta as you would see in like Florida or Texas or any sort of right-wing stuff. But we also have cops in Toronto. Yes, and they also have issues upon issues. There's lots of footage of them violently dismantling encampments that people are living in, roughing up protesters, injuring protesters. It is, yeah, Toronto police are also really bad. So a widely circulated video appears to show Toronto officer with his knee firmly pressed on a protester's neck from a rally held over the weekend. Toronto police is denying the use of this tactic, even though it's on video. It's on video. Somebody says, but we have eyes. Yeah, then what exactly is he doing with his knee pressed against the person's neck? Yeah. We scooch over to the article. Deeply problematic video. That's good. Deeply problematic. Video appears to show Toronto officer kneeling on protester's neck. Appears to show it? Let's see what they say. Let's get some
over the weekend. The video shows a man pinned to the ground face down. He's surrounded by officers, including one who appears to...
I don't know about you, but saying appears is being very generous right here, because I see the person's head and I see the officer's knee on that person's neck. It doesn't appear to be that. That is exactly what that cop is doing.
Push his knee into the side of the man's head, squishing it against the pavement. The officer's knee seemingly stays on the protester's head and neck area for several seconds.
Seemingly, huh? Yeah, it does.
While the other boot is stomping in front of the man's face, smashing his glasses.
So keep in mind, if that officer is stomping his other foot, that means that there's times when his entire body weight is on this leg, this knee. So he's putting his entire body weight onto that person's neck.
It's not clear from the video exactly where the officer's knee was placed, but certainly it was above the shoulders, somewhere in the neck end.
Yeah, we're not entirely sure. It was above the shoulders and below the head, but we're not sure where it was placed.
Head area, both of which are deeply problematic.
Alec Mukherjee, the former chair of the Toronto Police Services Board, tells me he was surprised by the video, saying this angle shows concerning actions by the officer in question.
Anyone who pays attention to what cops do, especially in Toronto and stuff like that, we're not surprised.
I believe there is an obligation on the part of the police service and the chief to conduct a proper investigation.
This all went down at a
Yes, let's have the police investigate their own on this one, huh?
pro-Palestinian rally downtown on Sunday. Toronto police say the arrest was made after a man allegedly pushed a cop from behind, causing him to fall onto the street. Despite this new angle of the video posted by protest organizers on Tuesday, police continue to deny the officer's knee was on the
Yeah, so officer's knee there, you just saw his foot go over here. Those are the guy's glasses right there. You can clearly see that the officer just kind of stomped on.
protester's neck. In a statement, TPS tells us
Whoa. Sorry, I haven't seen this in great detail before, but you actually just saw the officer directly stomp on this person's glasses.
neck. In a statement,
Right there. That is him directly stomping on that person's glasses.
TPS tells us, on review of available footage of this matter, we maintain that the officer did not place his knee on the suspect's neck. This was a sudden and unexpected event during a demonstration. During dynamic situations, officers are trained to use the amount of force necessary to render a situation safe for all involved.
That was necessary? You see, this is why we can't have the police investigate the police. That was not necessary, and that could have killed the guy.
Was the use of force appropriate for an unarmed man who pushed an officer?
This is the question. It was not as if this was one individual officer alone trying to tackle a protest crowd. There was a big group of officers there. How much risk would that this person's pushing the officer have caused?
The 32-year-old man was eventually taken away in handcuffs and is facing charges of assaulting a peace officer and obstructing a peace officer.
As a member of the police board, I have reached out and asked for a briefing, a discussion about it. So that is my hope, is just to get more clarity about what happened.
Now, since police told us the officer's knee was not placed on the protester's neck, we asked them to clarify what was happening in the video. We did not get a response to that, but we are being told all the officers were wearing body-worn cameras, which is evidence that may later be presented in court. Shauna Hunt, City News.
Yeah, well, I don't think the body camera of that cop would have actually caught what he was doing because it points away from that, but this is to say that the cops probably didn't know this footage was out there. So this is really good that other people are now recording encounters with police officers, but that was totally uncalled for. And it's like, this isn't from long ago. This is December 13th that this article came out. This is from, a pro-Palestinian rally. So this is recent. Like, do they learn nothing? That, with everything that happened in the States, do they learn nothing? They do this because they want to. Like, there was so many other ways of restraining a person, but to be this brutal, to purposely, like, it looks like, I don't know for sure, in my opinion, it looks like he purposely stomped on that guy's glasses. So not only is he under arrest, possible injury to his neck that might not be detected right away. But, in Canada, eye care is not covered. So now that person is out the cost of the glasses unless he has really good insurance that the cop will not have to pay for. So this person who's on the ground right now will be charged with whatever offense for pushing the officer or whatever. But the thing is that cops are just given free rein to abuse and hurt other people without ever facing assault charges, which is just so gross because they are blatantly assaulting people, like in different protests and stuff. You see that, like, if that was just a random person doing it to another random person, there is no doubt, there is no question that it is assault. But because it's a police officer doing it, it's okay. It's not okay. It's never been okay. That person was not a threat. Like, here in Canada, it's not like they have to worry about guns the same way they do in the States. You know, the likelihood of just a random protester having a gun here in Canada, very slim. Not saying it's impossible. Toronto in particular does have a bit of gun violence going on. But, like, there are, like, so many police officers around there right now. You're telling me this is the only way they could restrain this person? The only way they could put handcuffs on this person was to apparently put the knee on the neck. Well, we don't know. It's the space in between the shoulders and the head. Absolutely disgusting. On review of the available footage of this matter, we maintain that the officer did not place his knee on the suspect's neck. You know what? It should never even, like, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, he's left a little bit of space there. And somehow when he's stomping on that glasses, from his little tippy toe there, he's able to maintain balance to leave that much space so he's not actually pressed against that person's neck. It should never be that close. Like, there should never be footage that's close enough to it happening that it's been called into question. But how can you say that? Because it's like, oh no, it's not on the suspect's neck, but we saw him stomp. So you look at this. So you're telling me that on his little tippy toe there, he has enough strength in this foot and leg to put all of his body weight right there when he lifts this foot up to stomp the glasses. Is that what you're telling me? Absolutely disgusting. But it's not just people in the force. It tends to, you know, again, police forces tend to attract a certain type of people that go into it. And some of those people come from certain types of families where there might be certain trends within that family. This one I found interesting. Ottawa Police Service Board Chair, resignation following son's arrest on drug charges. Well, at least he was arrested, you know. Yay for the small wins here. He wasn't, you know, dismissed. It wasn't covered up. Gail Beck had been appointed head of the police board in April, 1 month after drug detectives launched a Project Top Shelf investigation. Dr. Gail Beck's abrupt resignation as chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board on Thursday was announced after her adult son was arrested in what the police chief called one of the largest drug busts in the city's history. Timon Beck, 37, is charged with participating in a criminal organization and conspiracy to traffic cocaine and crack. For the investigation dubbed Project Top Shelf, police seized 40 kilograms of cocaine and 4 kilograms of crack with an estimated wholesale value of $1.5 million or $4.5 million on the street. So for Americans, the conversion there means it's a lot. That's a lot. I wouldn't say it's huge, not for American standards. I've seen far bigger drug busts in the States, but for Canada's standards, that's a big number, apparently. And it's still a lot, even in American standards. It's just not an oppressive a lot for American standards. Timon Beck, along with accused accomplices, remain in jail Friday, awaiting a bail hearing. Mr. Beck has no criminal record and has never been before the courts. Okay, I hope that's not going to be the future excuse as to why he gets no time. He is presumed innocent of all charges. We look forward to receipt of evidence in the case defending him against these allegations, defense lawyer Eric Grenier said. Project Top Shelf includes surveillance and identified a stash house for drugs and money. Yeah, we don't need to go over the whole article to get the point. But yeah, if I was going to apply to be a police services on the police service board at all, let alone the chair. I might want to see what my family is up to. You know? Yeah. That I might want to see what kind of criminal organizations my family is involved in, because then people might suspect that I'm only becoming part of the police board to help those family members get away with their criminal shenanigans. Just, absolutely ridiculous. But at least he was charged. At least they didn't look the other way. So, yay for small wins. Let's check chat. I'm really hungry. I haven't actually eaten much today. I hope when my tummy starts to rumble, people don't hear it. So Life, I just had a "Don't show me this channel again" Stephen Crowder short involving him dressing in white, prompting the N-word, like, WTF is YouTube doing? Yeah, and I can get demonetized for saying words regarding mental health. BK Cat, exactly, housing is a human right, yet we criminalize poverty. I have some videos on that because we hear a lot about what's happening in the States, about how you can be charged if you give food to an unhoused person or water to an unhoused person. That sort of stuff happens in Canada too. We just don't hear about it as much. But it's a problem here in Canada too, and I have a video on that. Yeah, they're called peace officers here sometimes. It's really ridiculous. Brenda Noel, I don't remember cops being this aggressive with truckers when they were blocking the streets. Yeah, because they don't want to harm the people they're going to the barbecue with next weekend. It's yeah, I have videos about this as well, where it just shows where a lot of the biases of police officers are. It's, if they're right wing, there's a good chance they know too many people in the crowd, so they don't want to be too mean. But yeah, there were a lot of things that were chargeable offenses, ticketable offenses during the Freedom Convoy thing in Ottawa. Yet most of them weren't charged, but if somebody was pushing back against the noise or the harassment they were receiving, or were walking in areas that they shouldn't be because they needed to get to a job or something, or were parking because there was nowhere near their job that they could park, those were the people the cops targeted. The anti-corporatist use of force is just a violence when the police do it. Yeah. Yeah, completely. And it's like, nobody should kid themselves. Of course that cop was more aggressive than potentially they may have been because they felt slighted by that person, if that person pushed them. But it's like, we don't even know. Did that person actually push the cop, or did they stumble into the cop? Were passing by and accidentally brushed into the cop or something of that sort. Like, is there footage of that person actually, like, because I can tell you, of the people I know and the type of people that go to these protests, I don't think too many people would risk instigating that sort of thing intentionally. To just, oh, I'm at a protest where there's a heavy police presence and I know how, prone to violence they are, I'm just going to go up to this cop and shove him from behind. Like, it is, I have a hard time believing that it could be, I don't know the person. It could have been an intentional shove. I'm leaning more towards it was an accident. Brenda Noel again. Part of the problem is that Canadian cops train with American cops and American cops train with the Israelis. Yeah, we also send people over there to help train them as well. It's this is why I keep on pushing for more cross-border solidarity with the states here in Canada, because the right wing is so intertwined. You know, everything the right wing does down in the States, they're doing up here. Vice versa. They're training with each other. They're supporting each other. They're financially supporting each other. And yet the left is still so discombobulated all over the place. But the right has it kind of in cohesion. Hello, Obsolete Optics. I don't believe I've seen you in here before, so welcome. Yeah, I think I'm seeing some new faces today. Thank you for swinging by. I really appreciate it. So all of you will soon learn I am horrible with names. Horrible with pronouncing names. Oh, just as I was saying that, I see Brenda Knoll say it's pronounced like Knoll. Okay, I got it. Hopefully, I can't promise I'm going to remember it. So Brenda Knoll. I'll try my best to remember it. Okay, let's see. How are we for time? So why don't I get to the other story that I put in the title? There's still like a bunch of little things to get to, but I put another thing in the title. It's a little bit on the lighter side, you know, it's not horrible. It's just some background in American politics, and you seem a little bit lopsided today for some reason. Not that people needed to see me adjust that, but you know, I'm trying to pay attention to it. I don't know. I felt really weird in the video that I just posted that halfway through it, that overhead light that I have here crapped out, and yeah, the overhead light crapped out, and so the shading and everything here got really different halfway through that video. Not that anyone needed to know that, but here, let's distract with this. Look what I got. I got a gift from somebody. Yay, left is best. Majority report. I got it was gifted to me, not by the majority report. Don't think anything like that. Yeah. So I got some majority report gear. I also have the hoodie, which is really nice and cozy, and some of the other things. So I'm super happy about that. It's the first time I actually got merch from like any sort of like online leftist organization. Like there's a comedian I love on YouTube called Ryan George, and he does these brilliant skits. He also does a thing through Screen Rant called Pitch Meetings, and they used to be solely on that, but now Pitch Meetings has its own channel. Brilliantly funny. You can tell by his humor that he is actually like a progressive as well, with some of the ways that he jokes, and it's just where he criticizes like capitalism and, you know, the way people are treating the pandemic and all that sort of stuff. But about once a year or so, he releases a poster for fundraising, and that's something that I always have to get, because I just he's so brilliantly funny. I love him so much. And he's Canadian. Oh, and I suppose I have gotten some of the letter hacks, Michael Brooks stuff, and his t-shirt. Okay, so this isn't the first time, but it's like of like a major leftist program brand. This is the first time I've done that. Yeah. Yay, left is best. After this, I'm going to go snuggle into the hoodie. Because, well, we'll get into it with the weather. It hasn't been that cold around here, but I haven't really had the heat on either, so it can get a bit cool in my place. Anyway, let's get back to some news, and still feeling a little bit... oh well. Who really pays attention to this anyway? Let's get back to the news. So, posted on Twitter from Bridget, wonderful person on Twitter. Go give her a follow if you're still on the hostile fart sauna. She says, "Welcome to Ontario, where where Minister of Health prioritizes alcohol access while neglecting healthcare access. Her government is working hard to make alcohol purchase easier for you. Don't worry about the 16-hour ER wait times. For them, it's alcohol over healthcare." Yes, Bridget is involved in healthcare, so especially if you want updates on what's happening in Ontario with healthcare, she is a good person to follow on Twitter. So from Sylvia Jones, she is an MPP, that's Member of Provincial Parliament here in Ontario. Starting no later than January 1st, 2026, you can pick up a bottle of wine at a convenience store before a holiday party or a pack of beer or cider when heading up to the cottage. We're delivering the kind of choice and convenience that people across Canada enjoy. So for those of you who don't know, all sales of alcohol used to be restricted in Ontario through the LCBO, the Liquor or something or other board. And that was owned by the province of Ontario. So all profits from the LCBO would go to Ontario budget, to that money. And we also had the beer store, which would sell more beer. And the LCBO was just general liquors and some fancy beers and stuff like that, but like all your vodkas and mixers and things of that sort. And I really liked that because those stores were clean, they were organized. You know, you had to be a certain age really to go in there, so it was easily controlled. You know, they were able to showcase local vineyards and things depending on where they are, and highlight different brewers and all that sort of stuff. And it did make it less convenient to get, which I'm not necessarily against when it comes to alcohol. That you know, it's not something that you can get just 24/7 for the hell of it. And it was a good thing, but it got opened up. Doug Ford's been opening it up. So now in certain grocery stores, you can get beer. So we used to have like independent breweries all over the place, craft breweries, which still exist. So those were allowed even before that. And a couple types of wine shops were allowed even before all of these changes. So, you know, I know some people who are like beer connoisseurs, and going around to all the different craft breweries is great. I tried a bottle of a craft beer once because the curiosity killed me, even though I don't like beer. It was coffee oatmeal beer. And I remember when I was in the brewery because I was just stopping in for something, and they said, "Oh, well, we can just give you a sample." I'm like, "No, don't bother with the sample, because if you give me the sample, I'm not going to buy the bottle, and I'd much rather just give you the money for it." And it tastes exactly as it sounds. You could taste the oatmeal, you could taste the coffee, and you could taste the beer. It wasn't blended at all. It was a unique experience for my palate. So let's go here. Oh, no, that's not the one that I wanted. Damn it, where was I? There. Yeah. So Sylvia Jones to Doug Ford. Doug Ford unveils plans to allow beer and wine sales in Ontario convenience stores in 2 years. So just making it more and more convenient for people to pick up, making it easier for kids to get access to it, for it to be stolen, because that's the other thing. Like, the LCBOs were pretty secure. Like, yes, of course, some robberies and stuff happened, but it was nowhere as near easy to steal alcohol from there as it is just your general average convenience store. And then it can put a lot of those convenience stores in a lot more jeopardy and stuff when you have people, robbing them for their alcohol too. So the Premier is uncorking additional choice for drinkers of beer, wine, hard seltzer, and pre-mixed cocktails, but it could take 2 or more years for things to open up. Premier Doug Ford has uncorked additional... Okay, that's pretty much a repeat of that. Ford announced Thursday the next wave of modernizing Ontario booze laws will come no later than January 1st, 2026, due to long-standing agreement with the beer and wine industry. That's just 749 days away. Mark it on your calendar. Get that little timer thingy going. That's actually, I'm looking at that. That's a really odd thing to just kind of throw into an article like that. Like, let's start the countdown right now. In 2018, we made a promise to you to bring beer and wine to convenience and grocery stores. Today, we're thrilled to deliver on that commitment, Ford told reporters at a Etobicoke variety store, one of 8,500 new outlets that should eventually be able to sell alcoholic drinks. Ontario would join Quebec as the only provinces to offer such a widespread liberalized corner shop sales. We've got to start treating people like adults, said the Premier. Teetotaler? Urging... I have no idea. What the hell? Teetotaler. Urging those who do imbibe not to drink and drive. Okay, this is some really interesting writing in this article, whoever wrote this. Currently, there are 2,935 outlets, including the LCBO, beer stores, supermarkets, wine retailers, and other specialty shops, licensed to sell booze here, as well as 18,000 bars and restaurants are permitted sales of alcohol to go. Yeah. Let's skip down here. The publicly owned LCBO will remain a monopoly on the sales of spirits and continue to be the exclusive wholesaler for all private retails, bars and restaurants selling alcohol, but competitive pricing will allow, which could mean lower costs for customers. That's never how that works. Whenever you say competitive pricing, that's rarely how that works. Retailers will be free to set their own prices as long as they are above the legal minimum floor pricing in place in order to promote social responsibility. So let's get to this floor pricing thing. So this isn't the first time Doug Ford has been trying to open up alcohol sales to help appease the people of the province, because as somebody pointed out, I didn't have that tweet saved. It says a lot about a government that makes alcohol, opens up alcohol sales, make that more liberal, while restricting healthcare and making that more difficult and less able to go to. So it's let's just let people, drink their sorrows away as opposed to actually dealing with their sorrows. But this isn't the first time. Let's get to here. So as the Beaverton says, Ford to bring alcohol to corner stores in 2026 in a bid to get Ontario drunk enough to re-elect him. The Beaverton is the Canadian version of the Onion. Check it out. Yeah. So what are we talking about with this? Well, there was this thing back when he initially got elected back in 2018 called Buck a Beer. That was a thing. And Buck a Beer was a campaign slogan used by the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. led by Doug Ford during the 2018 Ontario election. They pledged to lower liquor pricing in the province, reduce the minimum price of beer from $1.25 to $1. Once implemented, however, the program saw low adoption by breweries and resellers. So there is a floor price, a minimum price a can of beer has to be in Ontario, and that used to be $1.25, but Doug Ford's like, let's lower that floor to $1 and then, you know, do all of that promoting with that. But it led to some unintended consequences. I can speak. I need more coffee. But the thing is that this little buck of beer thing that he had going on, it did help a lot with his campaign. Like it says here, during the 2018 election campaign, Google Trends data showed that buck of beer was the second most searched for term related to Doug Ford ahead of polling day. Like it worked, getting the people kind of interested in this distraction, this thing that will not improve anybody's lives. But like Doug Ford can play the game. Don't need to read that, but at a press conference, Ford defended the policy from critics, stating that all I heard everywhere I went was buck of beer, buck of beer, buck of beer. So sometimes the media, ourselves even, we live in a bubble that you don't even realize some of the kitchen table issues people want to get done. Again, just it was such a distraction from all the horrible things that he was about to do to, you know, the repeal of the sex ed curriculum, broken campaign promises. He got rid of the basic income pilot project before it was even done. Just so many. Canceled the local wind farm, like just horrible. But let's just go down to reception and impact of this policy. Most craft breweries in the province rejected the policy, arguing it would be impossible for them to reduce their prices to that extent without losing money or having to take steps such as lowering the quality of their beer or firing employees. Global News estimated that the cost to produce a single 355 milliliter can of beer was as much as $1.69. Other critics pointed out with inflation, the minimum price of $1 in 2008 would be the equivalent minimum price of $1.16 in 2018. Some craft breweries also expressed concerns about the government's plans to give away prime shelf space in LCBO stores, companies that participated in the policy arguing that it could significantly impact sales of smaller breweries. So what was happening is he set this floor, but then gave preferences to the breweries that would actually offer this buck of beer to make his promise come true. But the only breweries that were capable of doing that were Barley Days Brewery, Cool Beer Brewing Company, and the President's Choice brand of beer. Because it's expensive to make this beer, especially if you're a craft brewery and you want like the best ingredients and the process, then it costs more than $1 to actually make that can of beer. And so it's only the cheapest, most bulk made crap beer that was offered for $1 a can. But then Doug would go ahead and say, okay, they get the prime shelf space in these grocery stores and beer stores, and they get little leaflets and all that sort of stuff. So they get preferential treatment for doing this, which really impacted, the sales of these craft breweries that were out there. Yeah, so Buck of Beer is back in Ontario, but only 3 companies are brewing in it. And that's from way back then. So this is an article from 2018 about this that I thought it was, yeah, It pretty much repeats a lot of what I was saying from the Wikipedia thing. So Ford has said participating businesses will offer prime spots in LBCO stores or advertising in magazine inserts, among other possible rewards. So he's rewarding people to do this thing. The Tories have said a return to Buck-a-Beer would see more competition in the beer market without affecting the province's revenues from beer and wine taxes, which government documents show brought in roughly 589 million in 2016 to 2017. So how did this actually play out, though? How successful was this for the actual people? Doug Ford's Buck-a-Beer plan made beer prices in Ontario go up, experts say. Jordan St. John says the price of 24 bottle case has gone up about 10%. And this article is from a couple years after the fact. Doug Ford's Buck-a-Beer plan was supposed to save people money, but according to one Ontario beer writer, it ended up making beer in the province more expensive. Jordan St. John has written about his Ontario beer industry outlook for 2020. He also looks at trends showing how much people are drinking and what sort of economic impact breweries are having in our towns and cities. So why did Buck-a-Beer make some beer more expensive? When they tried bringing Buck-a-Beer, there was a concept attached to the beer market in Ontario, a minimum price floor and a minimum price. And the minimum price floor had an annual escalator. It was basically a formula that kept up with consumer price index and made it sure that the minimum price for beer would increase year over year by a small percentage. So that was way back when. It turned out that in order to make Buck-a-Beer feasible, you had to remove that escalator, which means that breweries are now just able to charge whatever they like. And when the large breweries are given the option between making more money and charging less, they always chose making more money. Yeah. So this was just another... Let's go back to main shot. This is just what Doug Ford does. He makes these, populist type policies out there without really understanding what the consequences are, without understanding how this will actually impact the people, because he's just looking for votes. And it works because people are so distracted by this, they're not paying attention to, the things that need help, the things that people are suffering with. And it's just so frustrating that he gets away with it time after time. That people get so put off by politics, like the last election, provincial election, he won with only 18% of possible votes. So only 18% of the people who could have voted for him. That's not a good representation of what this province wants. But so many people didn't bother to go out to the polls because what's the point? Because there was a chance for the NDP to at least get in and see how bad they are. Let's change it up a bit. But he gets away with this sort of thing because, he's good at branding, if nothing else. He does own a labeling company, different type of labels. So, he's a millionaire. He has a family that's been heavily involved in politics. He got in on name recognition, yet he still is able to appeal to the average person as being one of them, refers to people as folks and friends and all that sort of stuff. I just wish people gave more of a damn about policy, actually seeing what happens versus this, because I don't think there was anything wrong with just keeping it to the LCBO, little wine stores, little beer stores, and craft breweries, bars, and stuff like that. But now to just make it available on any corner store convenience out there, it's not going to improve the quality of life in Ontario. Let's just put it that way. It's probably going to make things slightly worse. And his idea of, oh, competitive pricing and all that sort of stuff, that just means that the prices are going to go up. That, you know, they're going to be able to charge whatever they want. Well, you still have like the major producers of beer being able to sell like the cheapest, lowest quality stuff to, you know, to sell to that market as well. It's so frustrating. Let's check chat, shall we? We have James Fox in chat. Welcome. Oh, my dogs are goth has also popped in. Again, thank you for everyone for turning out. I really appreciate it. If this is your first time, welcome. If this is not your first time, welcome. Or as I say at the beginning, bonjour, bienvenue. My dogs are goth, keep us drunk so we can't see what they're doing. Yeah, pretty much. Bad lefty to be frank, it's very clever political stunt in my opinion. Yeah, it is. It worked. It absolutely worked back then. And there's a reason why he was spacing it out the way that he did. Because it will absolutely work again. It is just... people are so distracted by the superficial. Grand Theft Autobot, please forget that Greenbelt corruption scandal. Here, have some cheap beer. Yeah. There are so many, like, there's investigations launched into Doug Ford right now. There's the Greenbelt scandal. Like, again, that's why I did these, I called them Doug Ford Bites, and they're on a playlist on my channel, where it's just reminding people of some of the horrible things that he had done before or even before the last election. Because people forget about it all the time. But if you go over, like, he did this and this and this and this and this, the quality of life in Ontario has drastically dropped since. Actually, I wanted to, I think I have it here. Did I? Just to show, oh, I did have it here, okay. Ontario is dead last in program spending again. And so with all the provinces and stuff, this is program expenses per capita in 2022. And here's Ontario, the worst in the country. They use this as a bragging right. Saying, oh, look at us. You know, we're spending so little on the population. Doesn't that make us great? And as Tory, the lefty Canadian radical, pointed out, decades of bipartisanism, liberal and conservative austerity. I remember when she was the premier before Doug Ford, bragging about it in 2018. No wonder our schools and healthcare system are in such a bad state. And so Kathleen Wynne, again, the former premier, fact, Ontario is Canada's leanest government, spending less per capita than any other province. They're making that sound like a good thing. That somehow underspending on all these programs is a good thing. Like, I've told the story before of how my grandmother suffered in a long-term care home. That was under her watch. She helped make long-term care homes as they were that my grandmother had to suffer through. Like, this is not something they should be bragging about, and yet they are. Like, oh yeah, we're cutting out the fat from expenses and stuff. And meanwhile, Doug Ford lost $4.4 billion in COVID spending relief. Like, it was never accounted for. It's just gone. And there's been no accountability for that. And so our services are constantly being underfunded. In the last stream, I was mentioning how so many of our emergency rooms are being shut down at different times. You know, healthcare is becoming more and more of a struggle to get any sort of decent healthcare in this province. But here's buck a beer. You know, they're underspending on so much, putting money into useless projects. Like, I was trying to add up at one time, like all the money Doug Ford lost initially because he canceled certain programs and stuff that actually cost the government money. And then he also did things like, I'm going to make these welcoming signs to Ontario that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then there was his stupid license plate fiasco where he wanted to design new license plates for Ontario because of course he did. And he spent it ended up being like 1.5 million to replace all these license plates. But the thing is that you couldn't see them in the dark. They never tested it in the streets at nighttime before they put them into production. And so it was like a blue background with white print, but in the nighttime with streetlights, you actually couldn't see anything on the license plate. Yeah. So all the money he's wasted, all the money that's just gone missing, all of that. And people are distracted by a buck of beer. We need more people watching my channel so they know all of this. And like, that's the thing. It's not that hard to change it, to make improvements with this government. If enough people actually got informed and got involved, which I keep on pushing for. Let's see. Yeah, Grand Theft Autobot, please forget how I'm going to obliterate your healthcare in favor of a paid healthcare system. Have some more cheap beer. Yep. Drink your sorrows away. Pretty much the only healthcare we'd be able to get is pouring alcohol on open wounds. Grand Theft Autobot. Thing is, in Canada, we call our dollars loonies, not bucks. True that. Something I like to quiz the Americans on when they're on my channel. What do we call our $1 and $2 coins? Sometimes if I'm feeling really cheeky, I'll just be like, and the $3 coin, what do we call it? Oh yeah, and just thinking about somebody's mentioning his brother again. Olivia Chow is looking to name a stadium after Rob Ford. Why? He wasn't a very good mayor. Like, the reason why he was known all around the world was not for reasons I'd want to be bragging about. He was known as the crack smoking mayor of Toronto. Like, he was known for just being an absolutely unhinged person. And she wants to name a stadium after him? Why? Like, personally, I'm fine not naming landmarks after people because that is problematic in so many ways, especially in a colonial state, because we have so many schools and statues and parks and everything named after people that, when you actually pay attention to their record and what they did, are horrible people. And everything they represent is horrible. So let's not name them after politicians. Let's start with that. Like, just not name them after people. There are random words you can come up with to name a stadium. Like, I will say Ring Light Stadium. That has a certain ring to it. Let's go with that. Or let's go with Left is Best Stadium. I like that. Let's name a stadium Left is Best. You know, like, it's just the idea of naming in this day and age. Like, I mentioned in a live stream recently that they just put up a statue of Queen Elizabeth on Queen's Park. So Queen's Park is where Parliament is in Ontario. And they just put up a statue of Queen Elizabeth. Like, this year. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, and to talk about all this colonials bullshit, let's go to this. The agent NDN says, this is so fucking perverse. An award-winning building shaped like a soaring eagle provides a new space for Indigenous ceremonies and promotes a holistic approach to healing at a correctional institution in Quebec. Joy Henderson, also a wonderful person on Twitter, go follow her. So glad the government created culturally appropriate prisons in which to disproportionately incarcerate us in. Yeah. Agent NDN again. How are you going to make culturally relevant prisons when we didn't have prisons? Canadians have really gone full mask off with their racist genocidal fantasies, huh? Yeah. Look at that. Let's put people in a prison that's sort of shaped like an eagle to show that we care about Indigenous peoples in this country. Wow. So, like, there are some correctional facilities in Canada that try to be culturally sensitive. But let's keep in mind, there's no such thing. Because Indigenous peoples are so disproportionately imprisoned in Canada. Like, you think it's bad in the States when it comes to the Black population versus the white population and incarceration rates, because it's like 30 to 40% of the prison population is Black, but they only represent 15% of the overall population. Well, in Canada, 40% of men in prison are Indigenous, and they only represent about 5% of the population. Nearly half of women in prison are Indigenous. Over half of the population of children in foster care is Indigenous. Like, this country is horrible towards Indigenous peoples. And then to do something like this to show that they care? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I will admit, and I've admitted this, I think, even in the last stream, like, I am guilty for at times I've done the white savior thing. My heart was in the right place, but I didn't understand things well enough. And I've learned since then, and I've learned by listening to Indigenous peoples. Like, they have educated me in ways that no school institution could have possibly done, and it's just through having regular conversations with them. Like, an example I'll give is there was this news story coming out of Ottawa that the federal government was going to give this building to Indigenous peoples for a cultural center. And it was a really nice building. And I thought, you know what, that does seem like a nice gesture, you know, because it's in Ottawa, it's in a prime location, it's a nice, big, beautiful building. So this should be a good thing, right? No, actually. And I was humbled. Because what it is they had no say in that building. That building was just kind of like an oversight of the Canadian government. It wasn't being used at that time, so why don't we put it towards Indigenous peoples? And it was in need of repair. But the idea of putting an Indigenous cultural center in a colonial building, a colonial designed and built building, is just such a huge bad idea. Like, no. If you really want to support Indigenous peoples in their cultural center, then you let them design it the way that they want it and put it on land that is relevant to them. And that's the proper way of the federal government starting to do things like the reconciliation that it claims to want to do. And when that was explained to me, it's like, okay, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That does. And so I try to bring that forward when, other things like this comes up, because some people who aren't educated, who aren't aware, might be like, that seems like a neat idea until they actually read into it. And it's like, it's just such a slap in the face. Like, it is just, oh, what's the word? It's not tokenism that I'm thinking of, but it's constantly how this Canadian government will put on display all these culturally sensitive things that they do. Like in our music awards or something, there's genre for Indigenous music, or there's this and that and the other thing, and they highlight Indigenous singers or bands at their events, and they do this, like all this, to show that they're so progressive and inclusive, and that we've moved on past that colonial stuff. There's no longer any genocides happening because we're totally working together. And it's just for show. Like, it is just for show. Because what is still happening to Indigenous peoples in this country is abhorrent. Like, just absolutely abhorrent. And the way the vast majority of people react to it is abhorrent because, again, governments do a really good job of hiding the truth from the people. And like, a lot of people, a lot of leftists are supporting, Palestinians over in Gaza, but then say that Indigenous peoples over here need to get over it. Quite literally, they are doing that. Oh, it was so long ago, and yet when? So what happened over in Israel, they were there, what, 1,500 years ago? And so they're indigenous to that area, so they get to go back. But things that are literally happening now here in Canada, that's, you need to get over it. And I say now because there are areas, especially in BC, where it is Indigenous land that the Canadian government has invaded to help a corporation put a pipeline through it. It's just, and there's still broken contracts happening and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I support land back. Absolutely, wholeheartedly. Like, it is just, and for people who don't know what land back is, it's nowhere near as scary as people think it is. There's no way this government will ever be able to make up for the harm it did. None. But then to do something like this eagle-shaped prison, it's just wild. I wear a slinky on my finger whenever I'm doing a show. Well, whenever I'm out, I'm always having a slinky on my finger because I fidget with it. And sometimes I'm not holding on to it strong enough and it just goes flying away. What can I say? Actually, let's see. Where are we for time? Okay, so I had these two things. I'll skip them. I'll just stick to some one-off stories. Let's talk about some more culturally sensitive stuff, shall we? So, Winnipeg makes history by performing Canada's national anthem in Punjabi for the first time in the NHL. Because we're so culturally accepting here in Canada. We're such a multicultural country. Oh, wow. The comments on this. See, I think, sure, it's a nice gesture to do this. I'm not keen on having the national anthem sung before our sporting events. But it's, a nice gesture to their community to show some recognition to do this. the comments. This is when you learn, like, Canada is not, racism has not been solved in Canada. It's pretty bad here. Why is the Canadian national anthem being sung in a language that's not spoken here? LOL. Well, the thing is that it is spoken here by lots of people. Lots of people speak that language here in Canada. And I'm sure that same person would complain if it was sung in an Indigenous language. This sucks, says Lefty Crypto. Oh my god, that's a horrible name. I would imagine there's no Lefty Crypto. Yeah, Lefty Crypto. What the hell? So that's a paradox of a name. Yeah, at least some people saying it's like, why are we even doing this? And then somebody saying, I'm not even Canadian, and I find this disgusting. Yeah, these aren't Canadians. They are Indians culturally appropriating Canadian culture by singing the national anthem. It's hard to appropriate Canadian culture. It's kind of like, saying thieves stealing from thieves. When the vast majority of our culture is what it is because we've stolen it from other cultures. The vast majority of Canadian culture comes from that. So can anyone truly steal Canadian culture in that aspect? Yeah. Just horrible, horrible racism in this country. Oh, no, what? Where are the... I know there's a lot of quote tweets to this. I can't seem to see that. I don't know. Sometimes I know there's quote tweets, but I don't see where you can click on them to read them. It's a weird Twitter thing. Because the quote tweets are also, I'm sure you can imagine, horrible. Yeah, this racist asshole. Ew, it's Canada. First, the UK has, I'm not even going to say that word. Rishi Sunak, and then Canada does that. Is the West in debt to India? Yeah, let's, like, to be faced with that level of racism every time you go to Twitter, I just, oh, Soleil, thank you so much for the, I guess it's €5? 5 pounds? 5 units. Thank you for the 5 units. Really appreciate it. This Indigenous solidarity thing with Gazas is kind of interesting. Seeing it come from different places in the world. Yeah, again, if you ever venture onto the Hostile Fart Sauna Twitter, follow Agent NDN and Terrell Tailfeathers. Let's see if I can find his profile quickly. Joy Henderson is also a good one to follow. Yeah. So he has lots of really good commentary about it. Agent NDN has lots of good commentary about it. Joy Henderson has a lot of good commentary about it. And she brings in another unique perspective into it because she's Afro-Indigenous. So something that it's an intersection that often gets very overlooked when talking about Indigenous issues. But But yeah, they're good people to follow if you want to see more of the kind of like how Canadian Indigenous peoples were treated compared to Palestinians, and just, it's all the same colonial meat grinder, colonial system that's in place. Like it varies on how it was implemented, just given the times and the technology, but it's still, the steps of colonialism is still the same, no matter where they are in the world. Let's, Bad Lefty, this ain't going to be pretty. Yeah. You see, I don't get enough, my tweets don't get very much in the way of, oh, what's the word? Where people notice it. There's a certain word there, where people notice interactions, things of that sort. Engagement. Yeah, I don't get much engagement on Twitter because algorithms and things of that sort. I don't know if they changed, but my engagement seems to have gone down. So I'm almost never harassed on Twitter. Which, it's one of the things, I don't want to be harassed, but at the same time, if I'm starting to get harassed, I know it's because I'm getting heard. Grand Theft Autobot, I guess, left crypto, wants healthcare for all paid by crypto. Yeah, what kind of name is that? Lefty crypto, like. James Fox, Twatter, Trollville. Yeah, I have given it the nickname the hostile fart sauna at times in my videos. Yes, Brenda Knoll. Engagement was the word that I was looking for. Okay, so I'm trying to limit these to like around 2 hours. I don't want to get too overboard with how much time I'm taking from everyone. So let's see if there's another like quick one-off thing we can do. Actually, there's John Fetterman and the way that he's gone, but I will probably have a much longer rant about that, so I'll leave that for next time. Oh, here, there's this that just came out. And again, people in my comments under my last YouTube video saying I'm not funny. Well, let's see what qualifies as a funny comedian.
Wait, a bunch of losers that never know how to get a job. I don't care about them. If we don't stop these horrible communists, do you hear me?
Do you hear me? Because you're not laughing or applauding. Is this thing on? Is this on? You hear me? I just said communist. You're supposed to react.
I'm asking you to hear me. Stalinist. Communists.
I said the words. It's kind of quiet in here.
With a huge helping of Nazi fascists thrown in.
Woo, wait. Wait, why? What? It's kind of like, okay, communist, fascist, that's a thing. And then all the people in the audience being like, "Ooh, bad communist." Wait, is she dissing fascists? Like, isn't that what all we are? Like, what's going on here?
Plus, wanting a caliphate.
Notice how quiet everyone is after that. Because I guarantee you, the vast majority of the audience has no idea what that means. So quiet after she said that.
Wanting a caliphate.
Is this thing on?
To replace every Christian democracy on earth now occupied. Do you know that?
It's really bad when you can distinguish from the audience a single voice saying, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Wow. But I'm not funny. She's funny. I'm not funny. But as some people were saying, it's like, is this alcohol, pills, or both? She's not well. And it's like, yeah. Huh. See, I don't like blaming anything on pills per se because I'm medicated from my depression and stuff of that sort. I can also tell you that if there's a mix-up with my medication or if I take another pill or something like that, I don't suddenly become an unfunny racist comic. That's not a side effect of any medication that I know of. There's no warning label saying, warning, if you take this, stay off social media because you might become a racist asshole. No such thing as warning about that on any medication that I'm aware of. And the alcohol, it doesn't make you racist. It just makes you a little bit more liberal in what you say. It just kind of brings out your inner truth. It's just... It wouldn't matter how drunk I am. I still wouldn't be like a horrible person. I might become more snarky in general, but not about any particular group. Just really low patience, let's put it that way. I usually have to control a lot of patience to make myself polite, to make myself a polite Canadian. When there's a lot of people that I just kind of want to say, shut the fuck up. So happy I got gifted this, yay! Majority Report merch. Going to snuggle up into the hoodie I got. It's a nice little gift around this time of year. It's too bad, like, I don't think I could take this down to a show and get it autographed. It would wipe off. And it would be very hard to write on. Yeah, so for those of you who are new arriving, who weren't here at the beginning, just want to promote my video that I released yesterday about my time at TYT and Rebel HQ. I was really hoping we get more views. Like, I really put myself out there for that one and put a lot of work into it. And it has some really good messages and points in there that I think people need to hear and be aware of. Yeah, that's the struggles of being a content creator. You put your heart and soul into something and it gets almost no response, and then you just say something off the cuff and suddenly that's the thing to go viral. But yeah, I was very open and honest about my experience over at Rebel HQ. I was able to get through most of the comments because I was worried I wouldn't be able to read any of the comments because I got so much anxiety about that one that as soon as I made it public, I just kind of detached from the world and went to watching Star Trek Next Generation. Oh my God, I'm loving rewatching Star Trek: The Next Generation so much. Like all the things you notice as an adult that you didn't notice as a kid. Okay, so noticing the stunt actors and how blatantly obvious they are, not the best part of it, but I'm just like, this is autism in space. Like all of them are autistic. Just wonderfully autistic. Like I never thought I would relate so hard to a character and that being Data. Like asking, it's like, what is the human, like, why is this funny? What is the human reaction that I'm supposed to be implementing right now? Like I would literally say that to my boss at my last job when there'd be like somebody would announce something or there'd be news. I would go to him and it's like, okay, what's the appropriate human response for this so I can do it? I never thought like I can relate to so many of the cast on that. Like when I was a kid, yeah, sure, I had the crush on Wesley Crusher, but now I'm like that whole cast. That whole cast. I'd be, yeah, wow. That's a ship I'd love to be aboard. Like everyone. But yeah, so if you can, if you have the platforms, please help promote that video that I did about Rebel HQ. I'd like to get the word out. Just I think it's really important for people to understand what TYT is, and that is not the home of progressives. That is their brand. What they are is a capitalist corporation. And to think of them as anything else is going to lead to disappointment, like it did for me. And I think I did a very good job with that video. Add some humor, add a lot of political commentary into it too, about other things, not just about TYT. As I tried to make all my video essays not just about one single thing, like because there's no such thing as something separated from everything else when it comes to what we're dealing with in society. Like there's no isolated issue. It's being, pushed and influenced from all of these different directions. So it's hard to look at any one thing as a singular entity when you're criticizing anything in society. And there's a word in my head that I was thinking of how to phrase that, and I can't think of it. Of course. Like a solo issue or just one that's detached from everything else. Like there's no such thing. So when I get into my video essays, I like to at least, incorporate some of those other issues and how they're all affected because, with TYT and contractors, you have the issue of, capitalism. And when you're a contractor, the lack of, healthcare and time off and all that sort of stuff that can come with the territory, or how it's demanded that you do so much more work than what you're getting paid for, but you have no choice. And in the States, it's even worse because of the way your healthcare system is. And so you're forced to stay in jobs that would actually make your health worse just so you can have healthcare. It's and just yeah, a lot of the stuff that I went through when I was there, thinking that they were one thing and they're not, and despite everything that I went through, I still really loved what I was doing, getting the progressive message out there to a wider audience. I loved going through the comments because for some reason I don't get harassed online. And the vast majority of comments I came across were just so positive and motivating when I was doing that, and really reminded me why it's so important that somebody like me can have a platform to talk about disabilities and autism and poverty in a way that a lot of other people can't. Queer issues and being non-binary and whatnot. Like, yeah, just writing that script and going over everything in my head, like just reliving all of it too. It's like, yeah, that was a lot of strain, a lot of stress. um, Ideally, I was hoping it would get more like 5,000 views, but You know, unless a super big channel decides to plug it or feature some of it, then I don't think it's going to go anywhere else. But it's fine. You know, it has helped some people, and that's good. Hopefully some people can have a bit of like a cathartic release with some of the stuff in it that I said. Well, a lot of people who are autistic were relating hard to a lot of what I was saying. So that's good. Because it is so hard figuring out workplaces and stuff when you're autistic. Just human interactions, you know. Let's see. MIDI doctor, what's Christian democracy? Yeah. Like, I don't know if there's any, other than Vatican City, country that's set up specifically in their constitution that it's a Christian democracy. I don't know. Like, it's entirely possible. I can't think of any. Maybe some South American ones? I don't know. I have no idea, but what would a Christian democracy even look like? Well, we're about to find out what a Christian fascist democracy looks like down in the States if they get their way. Emergency remedial truth. She just saying scary words with no real context. I have no clue what she was talking about. Yeah, it's just like, ooh, people don't like the word communist and people don't like the word fascist, so let's just bunch it to commu-fascism. Frodo, hi. Hey, baby. Got a Frodo in the room. Thank you so much to the people who have been helping out with his vet bills. Still about $850 to go with his current vet bill that needs to be paid off. He's doing, I don't know. He's eating nowhere near as much as I would like. He's walking around and stuff. But he was doing that before he took a turn for the worst again. So I don't think what's causing it has been cured. I think he's just in between spells. So ideally, if I can get enough money for his vet bills in and stuff, take him in for that ultrasound to see if the issue with his intestine is something that could be fixed. Shouldn't be like this in Canada. Shouldn't have to watch your little fur baby suffer. Let's see. BKK, I used to be on a heavy dose of Ambien and I never went on racist tweeting tirades. Yeah. Yeah, on all the different medications that I've been on and stuff like that. It's never once made me want to tweet out something racist. Or to go on a racist rant. But I've lived a very sheltered life. I used to volunteer tutoring English to immigrants, newcomers to Canada. And so one of the conversation circles were people who had immigrated, like students and stuff like that. So they already had like a working knowledge of English. And so it was just more teaching them to be smoother with it, some of the slang, idioms, things of that sort. And my policy with that was to be open and honest with them. Any question they asked me, I would answer to the best of my ability because there were things that they need to know. Like some of the older volunteers would shy away from certain things because they were uncomfortable saying it. But it's like, people are going to be encountering these words. They need to know what they mean. And as soon as some of them found out that I was like this, they would ask me what the racist slang for them was. That was like the first thing. And I am so sheltered. I'm like, for some of the groups of people, I'm like, I don't know what's even current because I don't hang around those groups. It was more like, you tell me what you've been called, and I'd be able to tell you if it's racist. Because I'm like trying to rack my head for some of these, like for some of these groups of people, because it's like, well, I know that they are called racist things, but I can't think of them off the top of my head, at least nothing that's current, you know, maybe things that I heard when I was a child. And so, yeah, it usually turned into, tell me what you heard and I'll let you know. And any words that I could think of that were racist slang, I'd let them know because, yeah, they wanted to know that if somebody was calling them this particular word, if it's somebody that they should be wary of. And also a lot of the sex slang, that was something because vast majority of countries out there are not that open with sexuality and stuff like that. And to come over into a country that's hyper sexualized in the advertising and the language and everything, that's quite the shock because there was some college students from Korea saying, "Oh yeah, we're in a very progressive country when it comes to sex. You know, there are porn star shops, but you have to like there are sex stores, but you have to like wear a hoodie, cover your face, go around to a back entrance, and hope that nobody sees you go in." And it was just so interesting. You know, when you're teaching people language and slang and how confused they could get over certain things, like the word flattering. Remember that one? Because they're like, a table is flat. I don't understand flattering. Or trying to explain the lyrics of a song. There was one from the Pussycat Dolls. Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was raw like me? All this sort of stuff. And it's like they have trying to understand, like, what do they mean by raw? What do they mean by fresh? What do they mean by this? I really love tutoring English. Like, it's one of the things that if I could go back to school for anything, it would become, I would become an ESL teacher for adults because I really enjoyed tutoring English. It's a different skill set that you need when you're tutoring somebody like a refugee because when they come over to the country, they have like zero understanding of the language because they weren't planning on coming over here. And I got involved with a program that was, I would go over to like a woman's house and help tutor her in English. And so that was a learning curve for me trying to tutor people who had no understanding of English to start off with. And it was always funny that the first few words they would learn is hello, Tim Hortons, and double double. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. Something I'd love to get back into if I had more time and stuff. Let's get back to some chat. Grand Theft Autobot. Could probably sign it with a Sharpie, but you're right, it would rub off. Yeah, over time. Yeah. No, it's like like here's a diamond tip pen, just like scratch it in to get the autograph onto this. Just yeah, here's a diamond tip pen, just scratch it in. And don't make any mistakes because it can't be fixed. Bad lefty. Dirty little brain. Ask Sam to sign a boob and watch his lefty brain explode. Explode. Yeah, I don't want people signing any of my body parts. Just saying. I'm good. I'm good. I might be fans of people, but you know, boundaries. Although it wouldn't surprise me if somebody has at least asked them. James Fox, did you see TYT Investigates are separating themselves from TYT Hub? Equal, yes. There's been a lot of changes happening at TYT recently. Whoa, this just jumped. Where was I? There we go. In the chat. Yeah, because they were rearranging where some people from Rebel HQ were to go to a different channel for longer videos, and they're struggling. Like, but the thing is that they're not struggling in the sense of they're not making enough money to get by. They're struggling in the capitalist sense of they're not growing as a corporation. They're not gaining more profit. They're not getting a bigger audience. And so when I've worked in retail, like at the head office at the retail company, seeing these types of changes happen so quickly, so fast, they're grasping for straws. And really, the best thing that they could do right now is stop making changes. Like, just calm down and stop throwing spaghetti at the wall. Yeah, it was just really disappointing, my experience with them. But at the same time, it was a good experience. Like, I learned a lot from it. I gained a lot from it. My video style became better because of it. Just being able to reach that wider audience. So it wasn't, and I do mention it in the video near the end, like, it wasn't all bad. It was just, I wish I could have been successful at it. But yeah, like getting rid of the watch list, not happy about that. I don't watch the main shows. Like, I don't watch any TYT anymore, so I don't even know if JR is on the main shows co-hosting anymore. I hope he is. Always loved his commentary. And that's part of the frustrating thing too, is that there are people at that network I want to support. People I like John and JR. But I can't even bring myself to watch their programming anymore because of everything that company represents and how it treats people. And just how disappointed I am in them for not doing more to push back against what Anna and Jank are doing. And really, they lost a lot of my respect because of it. But, and then you have actual allies like the Majority Report and like everyone there. Like, it wasn't just one or two people. It was like the entire Majority Report crew was so overwhelmingly supportive and the allies that you would hope for in instances like that. Yeah. And then the Serfs and Mike and David Dole and Ole. Those are the allies that have my respect. Les, I'm on Voyager. A lot of Aspie supremacy, though. I think you're talking about Star Trek Voyager. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I love watching it with fresh adult eyes. In order. It's and just seeing this dream of a socialist world without money and traveling the stars for the sake of exploration as opposed to looking for things to exploit. Eris Azul, I'm a Spock lover. I gotta tell you, out of all the characters, rewatching it as a data. No, I totally. He's totally like where I would. He's who I would hone in on. The android incapable of feeling. But oh my god, he'd be so good at communicating and being able to set up boundaries and, you know, and we could relate so well when it came to human aspects, trying to figure out how these humans work. Actually, I need to go back to it in Star Trek Enterprise. I remember Paul. Yep. I'm just like, just please beam me into the Star Trek world. I still need to get like all of them because now I want all of them on because I was gifted the Blu-ray Next Generation box set years ago actually from a really good friend. And so now I want to get like all the box sets in physical copy so I never have to worry about a streaming service or anything of that sort. And I'm hoping to get, it's on my wish list, but it's expensive as hell, the Deep Space Nine, because when they start to do their crossover, ideally, I'd like to watch the episodes in sequence properly, but it's hard to say. But I'm looking forward to eventually getting copies of it or something and rewatching Deep Space Nine because I'll always prefer Star Trek Next Generation for pure nostalgic. Like all the good morals I learned in life was from that TV show. So I will always, always prefer Star Trek Next Generation. Like Jean-Luc Picard was my father figure. But Deep Space Nine had the best story arcs by far. Like just where they took that series and how you saw the characters grow and develop and their interactions and stuff. They had the best story arcs. So I'm looking forward to rewatching that with fresh adult eyes. Even though it's like I know I've seen all of the episodes more than once. But it's been a long, long time since I've seen any of the original stuff. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Back when I had cable, there used to be the Space Channel years and years ago, and so I would watch that just to because they put the series on repeats and stuff. Morbius Dragon, I'm a big Trekkie. I watch Star Trek every day, and I also play Star Trek Online every day. Yeah. A friend gave me a drive with the more modern Star Trek stuff because I haven't seen any of that other than, I think, either season 1 and 2 of Picard, or maybe just season 1, and season 1 and 2 of Discovery. I've seen those. But since I don't have any of the streaming services that all these are on, and I don't even think they're all on the same streaming service, like there should just be a sci-fi streaming service of all the sci-fi programming. So I haven't seen like Lower Decks, finished watching those series, like all this other stuff that's out there that I would really like to watch. Looney Tunes 9000, Sandy, you did an excellent job with the video. Why, thank you. Brenda Knoll saying, I think it was like 9 months ago, someone commented wondering how long until TYT went the Jimmy Dore path. I don't know if it will get... So they are a corporation. Cenk is a proud capitalist. And he's very reluctant to move and shift on some issues, like especially with the trans issues and non-binary and in language and stuff of that sort. But he does have a certain level of integrity. Like, you know, quitting his other, being fired from his other jobs because like his position on what's happening in Palestine was great. And then he released that really stupid tweet saying, "Oh, you should do things my way." So I think his biggest problem right now is he's so desperate to stay relevant that it's actually harming his relevancy. It's midlife crisis, and it's really unfortunate because that could help bring down the thing. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think Jank would go the Jimmy Dore route. Anna, I can see. She's just getting more and more comfy with right-wingers and their programming and their language and their points of views and all that sort of stuff, that I could see her going that route, despite how horrible Jimmy Dore was to her. Let's see. Karen Bass. Yes, there was a quick photo sighting. He didn't come close enough to allow me to pick him up, though. Yeah, I'm trying to find, as I usually say, I'm trying to find comments where it's not part of a conversation in the chat and I know what it's in relation to. So I do skip over a lot as I'm trying to figure out what to read. Let's see. Well, it's easy for me to see when wonderful people like Environmental Coffee House send in a super chat for $4.99 for the holidays and the kitties. I'm in the same boat with kitties. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I was mentioning at the beginning, Lanier has developed some sort of respiratory issue, sneezing a lot, can hear a bit of a rattle. But the rescue I got him from should still be covering his vet bills. I just have to arrange to take him to the vet that, so the rescue is also a vet. It's the same thing. And it's about a 40-minute drive away. So I hope to do it soon. Oh, I meant to get to all that. Darn it. I'll have to do it on Tuesday. The weather. I was going to talk about the weather. We'll talk about the weather on Tuesday. How about that? Some interesting stuff. Like I was thinking before I went through my Twitter feed, because I bookmark so much in Twitter as to like, oh, these are things I'm going to cover, thinking, I don't know if I have anything I'm going to cover. Like I don't have enough to cover. And then I go through everything I bookmark and it's like, I have too much. Too many things I want to cover. So I have lots of material for Tuesday to go over, even if I don't go back online until then. I have a full show's worth, which is me thinking more and more like, I think I need to put in another show during the week. I wish I could be more. I understand Environmental Coffee House. I appreciate every little bit, and I understand the struggle. Yeah, it's do what you can when you can. Oh, am I down near the bottom of the chat? I'm down near the bottom of the chat. Bad Lefty. In short, weather bad? Depends on how you look at it. Lots of people are loving it. It's horrible. Eris Azul. Jank is from Jersey, so he might just talk like that. It's awfully annoying, though. I live in Brooklyn, and there are many people here who talk like that, but most of them aren't as annoying. Grand Theft Auto bot. Also, Jank was a conservative at first, so some habits may die hard. Yeah, he's still conservative-brained about a lot of things. But I think his biggest thing is he's going through midlife crisis right now, desperate to stay relevant. And in doing so, or desperate to also stay to his capitalist ideals with TYT. And that's falling apart. Because he has been moved on some issues in the past. But I think now he's worried that might make him look weak if he gets moved on some issues. And so he's digging his heels in even more. Yeah. You know, I keep on saying I want to keep these around two hours, and then I get in chat and I get all distracted. And I start responding to people because I like interacting with people. BKK, James, yes, exactly how Jank started. If there's one consistent at TYT, it's the hypocrisy. Seeing them make such a turn on some of their ideals, it is very disconcerting. And I was going to get into it with the John Fetterman stuff too. Like, the thing is that with John Fetterman and everything I've seen him do, I have no doubt he never believed it when he was trying to sell himself as a progressive. With Anna, I'm not 100% sure. I'm leaning more towards it depends on what you're talking about. There's probably, again, some areas where she's been on the right side of the issue, but has now turned to the wrong side of it and used to actually believe it and has had her mind changed. And some things that she just always never believed, but was saying it for the sake of looking progressive. I think there's a bit of a combination in there. Yeah. Eris Azul again. Yeah, this whole shit about being afraid unhoused people are going to murder his is absurd. Yeah, like just one of his rants about how toothpaste had to be locked up. Oh my god, if I had been on set with him for that. Like, there's this one moment where I'm like, oh, this would have been like a dream power panel to have me, Benny, and Jank on it. And then Jank says something stupid capitalist Y, and then me and Benny just totally go in the communist social route. Like, of course food should be free for everyone. People should be able to have enough food for free to live. Like, what kind of monster are you? That would have been so much fun. But as I say in my video, I don't know if I shot myself in the foot with my chances of ever getting on into any of the main shows because I showed such a willingness to push back. It's hard to say because sure, he likes disagreements and stuff of that sort, but he likes disagreements if he thinks he's right. And I would have made it very clear he was not right. Okay. Oh, welcome again, everyone, especially for those of you who it's your first time. And, you know, I appreciate all you. I appreciate all the mods that I have in chat. Hopefully someday I'll be able to pay it back. Pay it forward. Pay it forward. Let's start doing the whole signing off thing. We got that. We got this and this. So you can find me on these social medias here. Patreon, linked in the description box below. Only if you have the extra money, and I really mean it. I don't want anyone sacrificing or putting on hold something they need. Please help out with Frodo's vet bills. Links to the PayPal is in the description box below. If you're Canadian, you can email SandeeLovas@gmail.com. If you can't do any of that, you know, sharing the stream, liking it, making people aware of my channel, bugging the other leftists to bring me on so that I can raise my profile, all of that is helpful and it doesn't cost anything. Or if you know people who really appreciate good art and have the money to spend on it, you can check out SandeeLovas.com to see my art and the portraits I do. I still need to put together that letter because there was some really super generous person, somebody I don't know, who actually gave me $500, over $500 for Frodo. And so in that person's honor, I was going to do a pencil portrait for somebody living with poverty, but I need to write up the form for it still and post it because it's going to be a JPEG form of it, but then also in the alt text, I have to copy and paste it over because it's a lot more words than just, you know, a single tweet can handle. So I need to remember to do that. Fully intend to. And I will. It's just, my brain gets so scattered. It gets so hyper-focused on something. So yeah, there's all of this stuff here. Tuesday, as far as I know, as long as nothing goes wrong, be having the live stream at 5. I have a lot of stuff in my docket, as I said, so I have plenty that I can go over. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I really appreciate just being able to chat with you guys in the community. I hope to build, you know, another supportive, wonderful community here too. I'm just getting so hooked on these chats, like this interaction. I just keep on wanting to respond to everyone, but I know at some point, gotta say goodbye. Good evening for now. So, let's do this properly. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.